know Joe, but here he is.
Oh, okay, right, okay, right, so nice and brief introduction. Well, thank you for that warm and generous introduction. That was fantastic. So, okay, so this is obviously being videoed now. It's going to be available. My understanding is it's going to be available on the OUP website after today. So, feel free to take notes if you want to, or ask me questions at the end. It's an hour presentation, so we'll see how it gets on. We've got quite a few video clips and lots of thoughts. I appreciate you've all been teaching for the day, and so you're probably feeling a bit tired, but hopefully this will energise you and give you lots of food for thought. That's the idea. So, those people that don't know me, I taught for 13 years, teaching at secondary level and middle school level. So 10 years I was at a middle school in the Isle of Wight, teaching 9 to 13-year-olds, and prior to that I taught in 2 separate secondary schools. And from 2009 onwards I've been an independent languages consultant, travelling the world, training people on the use of, particularly at the moment, on iPads in languages as well as across the curriculum. I was in Kuala Lumpur last week, which is very nice, and I'm off to Dubai next week, as you do. And and I'm going to be sharing some of the findings that I've made in the last couple of years in relation to the use of technology to enhance language learning. So some of this is going to be looking at social media, some of it looking at iPads, and some of it looking at web tools. So everyone should be able to get something from it today, I hope. So this is my blog address here. Just do a search for Joe Daly, you'll find it. I've not had any time at all to update it, so it's not been updated since May of last year, which is very embarrassing. But anyway, it is there. If you want to see what I was doing when I was in the classroom from 2006, and I started writing the blog up until 2009, it's all there. When I was a lot more prolific in my blogging. And then this is my email address here, joe@talk21.com. So if you want to send me an email about anything that I'm talking about today, then that's absolutely fine. And if you're into that Twitter thing, then I'm Joe Dale on Twitter, and feel free to follow me as well, and I'll put you on the MFL Twitterers list, but more of that in a moment, in fact more of that right now. So what I'm going to start off by talking about is the community of language teachers, language professionals, language consultants and language associations on Twitter from the UK who like to share ideas on a daily basis on how not just about how technology can enhance language learning, but how to share good practice on language learning in general. And there are over 1,000 members of this community, which is officially called the MFL Twitterati. Hands up those people who've heard of the MFL Twitterati? A few of you, wonderful, fantastic. So, you know, essentially we are leading the world, and I say that absolutely seriously, we are leading the world on the use of social media in language teaching. And I've spoken at conferences in Australia, in North America, and nobody has disagreed with me. So it's really, really fantastic. So we should be very, very proud of this community. But more of this in a moment. Okay. So I gave a keynote talk at the ICT and Languages Conference back in 2011 at the University of Southampton. And in the keynote talk, I wanted to ask the question, what does the MFL Twitterati mean to you? So about a week and a half before the presentation, I put this out on Twitter, the tweet, asking this question. And this is a Wordle, so a word cloud, based on all the answers. And those people that know what Wordle is, you'll know that the more high frequency the words, the larger they'll appear in the Wordle. So as you can see, which I absolutely love, the most important word, the most important idea around being part of this MFL community is support. So it's not about, you know, geeky people talking about geeky things, although we do that from time to time, but it's a very human attribute, it's support, which I just think is wonderful. And particularly, well, as I said, this was 2011, but particularly now, this has become more and more important with essentially, you know, hardly any funding out there for different things. And the fact that we've got support, we're all helping each other from all over the country, all over the UK in fact, helping each other with different ideas on language and how it can be enhanced in the classroom so everybody benefits. So what I did was I took screenshots of all those tweets that I had as replies, and I put them into a little video, which was, as I said, 2011, but it's still absolutely valid. And I'm going to show this to you now, and then carry on talking about the MFL Twitterati. So here we go.
I've got to
they're really, you know, powerful things. They're not frivolous things. They're saying, you know, it's changed my life. This is, you know, the reason I am today. And this is exactly what's happened. What happened in 2011? That's just extrapolated now. It's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's really remarkable. And it's something I'm personally very, very proud of. Yeah, and it's amazing. So here's a little bit more information about the MFL Twitterati. So I wrote an article for the Network for Languages London blog back in 2012 called "Have You Heard of the MFL Twitterati?" You'll notice as well that a lot of these slides have got links where you can see about the original reference. So that gives a nice little insight onto how it all started and what it does, etc. This is a blog post by Jen Turner, who's the head of languages in the sort of Suffolk area, and she's taken screenshots of, again, of little of small tweets that people have written, just showing what a caring, sharing community that we are. So again, that gives you another little insight into this. Now, in February of last year, I wrote an article for the Guardian Teacher Network talking about the roots of the MFL Twitterati, which was essentially, there was a conference which I organised on the Isle of Wight, called the Isle of Wight Conference, which was part of my Specialist Schools and Academies Trust work as a lead practitioner at the time, from 2006 to 2008. And my idea there was to try and bring together people interested in technology and languages into the same place. And we had growing numbers of people coming along to these different events. And that was really the start of it all. And then Twitter came in about 2007, and there weren't that many language teachers who were sort of tweeting at the time. It was there was actually a lot more cross-curricular sharing, really, because it was just, you know, this was like this new cool tool, finding out how to use it. And then more and more language teachers joined Twitter, and in about 2010, 2011, it really exploded, and the community just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, as I've said already, there's over 1,000 members of the community. And also, as part of this, there's the aspect of what is the impact on the classroom. I'm going to talk more about that right now. So in 2013, I was nominated or shortlisted for a NACE Impact Award. So NACE, if you don't know, is like a National Computing Association looking at computing. So as part of this, I was nominated for actively building a global community of language teachers using blogging, podcasting, video conferencing, and Twitter to enhance language learning. So I didn't win, but obviously it's about taking part, isn't it? And then also I talked about the MFL Twitterati in this podcast interview, which is about an hour long, as part of EduTalk, which, if you don't know, I'd really encourage you to have a look at EduTalk, which is hours and hours and hours of audio all about educational topics, and you can find really interesting content on there. It's devised absolutely for free by two educators in Scotland called John Johnson and David Noble, and they're really nice guys, and they're personal friends of mine, and they'll interview people will record some audio and send it to the show, and then they'll put it up there absolutely for free, and it's really, really awesome. So as part of the NACE Impact Award, I had to show what was the impact of being part of this community on pupils' attainment, motivation and creativity. So of course I went onto Twitter and I asked the Twitterati to give me some ideas on what they felt the impact was. And again, I used Wordle, and I put all their answers into Wordle, and as you can see, students are the most important thing, as well as obviously MFL Twitterati, because that's what they were tweeting about. So students, new ideas, learning, using, teachers, it's all motivated, it's just absolutely fantastic. And then what I did after that, and I'll give you a moment to read this, is I compiled all the answers into bullet points, and this is what people found, more or less. And so, just to point out one in particular, the people who are part of the community felt that they are delivering more engaging and effective lessons by trying out new strategies, which in turn are motivating their pupils, improving attainment and encouraging them to produce more creative outcomes. And all of this is for free. So if you think about it, you know, it's very difficult now to find funds to go to conferences, to go to events. It's fantastic that you've had the opportunity to come along tonight, but not everyone has that opportunity. But in the comfort of your own home or on your mobile phone or whatever, you can be part of this community. Doesn't mean you have to be on Twitter all the time. You can take what I call the 10-minute challenge, which is to have a look at Twitter for 10 minutes a day for a week, and just see if it's something that you find interesting. And you know, it can absolutely change your life. So it's really, if you want to be at the cutting edge, or you want to be au fait with all the latest initiatives, with you know, what Mr. Michael Gove has come up with, his latest idea, you can find out all about that on Twitter, as well as a little bit of banter as well, which is always amusing. Now, the MFL Twitterati has gone global. The hashtag MFL Twitterati, if you do a search on Twitter, MFL Twitterati, then you will notice that language teachers from all over the world are using this hashtag and have been for about 3 or 4 years now, which is pretty awesome. These are 2 blog posts written by this lady here is a Canadian language teacher, and this person here is an American language teacher, and they're talking about the MFL Twitterati in other countries about what a fantastic community it is. It's just awesome. Now, if you're not into the idea of joining Twitter, which is fair enough, okay, then this is a nice little sort of shortcut, if you like. This is a website called paper.li, or Paperly, depending on how you want to pronounce it, paper.li. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I created a Twitter account called MFL Times. And what happens is you log in with the details into paper.li, and every day it generates a free e-magazine based on the links of the tweets of the people following this Twitter account. So for free, you can get like a Twitter fix, if you like, or a snapshot of what people are talking about on Twitter as part of this, which is why I generated it. So this is an experiment. I didn't know what was going to happen when I first started it, but it turned out to be amazing. And I think I'm right to say it's about 600, 700 people are following this account now, which means that every day you get a rich magazine full of interesting stories about languages, not just from people from the UK, but from all over the world. So if you don't feel like you want to get on Twitter, that's fine. Why not go along to this website and click on subscribe, or look at it on your mobile device if you want to as well. And every day you get an email when the new edition comes out, and you can have a look at that. So just try it out for a week and see if you like it or not. But probably every day you'll find at least one gem, I would suggest. Now, something else we've been doing as well is we've been doing these show and tell events, which is a little bit like a Teach Meet, if you've heard of Teach Meet before, which is the idea is people will come along for 2 or 3 hours and share good ideas completely for free. Sometimes we have some very kind sponsors. Vocab Express particularly been very generous about MFL, supporting MFL show and tells in the last couple of years, which is very much appreciated. And so they're free events. People come along and share good practice, giving short presentations of between 5 to 10 minutes each, sharing good classroom practice. So it's not about selling, it's not about pushing a product, it's about sharing good practice. And they're really phenomenal. So this one took place in Nottingham back in 2010, but there's been already a couple of this, in fact more than a couple this year. There's been quite a few happening in sort of the southwest region. There was one in Manchester, there was one in Coventry. So they're happening on a pretty regular basis. And this particular one was live streamed. Not all of them are live streamed, but people were tweeting away, following the hashtag for the event, and so you can enjoy it when you were there at the actual venue, or virtually. And if you couldn't make it, you could follow it on Twitter, and then everyone learns together. So it's really, really awesome. Now, something else that we've done a lot of as well is our what's called flash meetings, which are video conference sessions. So we use flash meetings, but you could use Skype or Google Hangouts or what have you. And the idea behind this is that we regularly meet up and discuss the issues of the day to do with languages. So we have a wiki, and we create an agenda on the wiki, and then we write down our name and then the organisation we represent, or the school, and then you can have up to 25 people in the room at the same time, and then we just talk about what Mr. Gove has decided to do at the moment, or the new national curriculum, or whatever it might be, or how do we control with controlled assessments and what have you. And then it's a very cathartic experience. So it's a bit like Twitter on steroids, if that makes sense. So it's a bit like it feels more face to face, even though we're still in our rooms here, there, and everywhere around the country. And sometimes we get people from New Zealand or from the States or from Australia taking part as well. So this is another way in which we can collaborate, and anybody can take part in this, anybody at all, and you can watch all the recordings as well. If you do a search for MFL Flash Meeting, you'll find the wiki I've just referred to, and you can find all the recordings. So we haven't done one for a while, but we're certainly going to do them, start up again soon. It's just, because I normally host, I've just been too busy. But anyway. Now, this has been a huge success in the UK as well. This is the idea of the MFL Twitterati dropbox. Now, just to be absolutely clear how this works, Amanda Salt, who is head of Spanish in a school in Belfast, Grosvenor Grammar School, thought it would be a good idea if we created a collaborative Dropbox. Okay, this became very popular very quickly, and the Dropbox became full, because if you don't know about Dropbox, you can't have more than 2 gigabytes of space unless you get unless you pay for more space, or you get more space through referring other people. So this was filled up very quickly, and so as a result of that, we created some more language-specific Dropboxes. So there's one for French, one for Spanish, one for German. The problem is that some people don't realise if they delete content from a shared folder on their Dropbox, it will delete it from everyone else's Dropbox. And if you've got 250, 300 people who are members of that folder, then that can cause a lot of problem. But nonetheless, it's still been a really, really useful idea, and lots of people have been putting interesting content into that Dropbox and then sharing it. It's UK only. Other people have wanted to join from around the world, but what we've done is we've asked them to replicate the model for the very reason I've just said, to make it manageable. And some people have done exactly that. But you could, if you wanted to, join this. But you have to be on Twitter, because originally we had on MFL resources. We were sort of making it available to anybody, and that caused a lot of problem because people, I think maybe were being a bit opportunistic and didn't realise that actually, you know, as I said, if you delete content, there was, I think, 1,600 files were deleted in one weekend, and then someone had to restore them all, or you can get them restored. Contact Dropbox, but you have to really be as part of the Twitterati, and I can put you on the list, I can add you to that, that's not a problem. But it's certainly a good idea either to be part of this or to replicate the same idea in your own area. So I'd really go for that. Now, in relation to that, Fiona Bowie, who is a language teacher from Australia, who I've met a couple of times face to face, she replicated the same idea, so she's created an Australian and New Zealand Dropbox for language teachers, which is pretty awesome. And also in the States, there's a guy, which I love his name, Caleb Bloodworth, who's a Spanish teacher, brilliant, who's a Spanish teacher, and he has created a World Languages Dropbox as well. And there's also an online community called LangChat, the LangChat community, and you can follow the hashtag as well on Twitter to find out what language teachers from the US are talking about. And they have also got their own Dropbox as well. So as I said already, we are leading the way in the world on the use of technology in this context. Okay, now just talking about that, that's very apt. I wrote an article for The Guardian in May of last year saying exactly that. Are language teachers leading the way with education technology? And I think that we are. And there was a critique of the article from the States by this gentleman here. And again, you can check that out in your own time. But you know, it's just the power of the internet. It just shows how you can share things so easily with anyone you want. Now, if you want to join the MFL Twitterati, what you need to do is you need to do a search for this list here on Twitter, MFL Twitterers, so the word Twitter with ERS on the end, and you can subscribe to the list, but you can't do that on a mobile device. You need to be on a laptop or a PC or a Mac to do that. Don't ask me why, but you can't, as far as I'm aware, you can't subscribe to a list on the app at the moment anyway. So if you subscribe to that list, then that means that you can read what people are tweeting about, and then if you follow me and you ask to be on the list as a member, which means that when you tweet, over 1,000 people will see your tweets, they just ask me and I will put you on that list. All we do is we ask people in their biography that they say that they're a language teacher or they have some connection with languages in the UK, and then I'll put you on the list. And that means that you've got an immediate audience of people interested in languages for any of your tweets, which is just amazing. And yes, it's taken years to build this up, but we've really, you know, it's really something special now. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about iPads in particular. This is Laura Knight, who is a head of languages at Berkhamsted School in Hertfordshire. And she's lucky enough to have 2 class sets of iPads just for the languages department in her school. And she wrote an article with Mark Steed, who's the head of the school, called ICT as a Catalyst of Change in Pedagogy. And this is very much talking about where we are at the moment with mobile technology, particularly iPads, and how we need to think differently in a way about what we're doing in the 21st century in our classrooms. And she talks about the Martini generation. Now those people that remember the adverts from the 70s and 80s with Ned and Rossiter, see, I said this in Australia, they had no idea what I was talking about. It was a real cultural difference, which was my mea culpa, as it were. But anyway, for those people that don't know, there was this advert in the 70s and 80s with Leonard Rossiter talking about anytime, any place, anywhere, martinis. So in other words, the idea was that you could have a martini wherever you may be. So the idea of the Martini generation is that with a mobile device, you can learn wherever you want to learn. So if you want to learn how to play a certain guitar riff, or you want to learn how to do a certain dance move, you can find out about all of this sort of stuff on YouTube, and that is called informal learning, and that's what students nowadays are doing all the time. And I love the fact that if you want to be independent about your learning, you want to explore something that you're really passionate about, whatever it may be, you can do that now. No problem at all. There are no limits in people's, in people's desire to find out information, which is wonderful. You can get information overload at the same time. If you want to explore whatever you're interested in, you can do that online, which is just wonderful. Now, I was asked to do a webinar for an organisation called EdTech Teacher, which is a US-based organisation, and they do an event called iPad Summit USA, and they've done about 3 or 4 of them so far. I was actually lucky enough to attend one in person in Boston in November, and I met up with some of the people there, and they've asked me to do a webinar, which is going to take place in a couple of weeks' time. Actually, it was going to take place in January, and unfortunately the junction box in my road exploded underground, and we didn't have any electricity for 9 hours, which meant I had to email them, and it really sounded like an excuse, but it wasn't. Yeah, this thing's exploded underground outside my house, so I can't do the webinar. But anyway, it was absolutely true. So anyway, I'm going to do it in March. And so the reason I'm telling you this is because I crowdsourced, which is another way of saying I asked my Twitter followers about if they could share with me work they've been doing with iPads in relation to languages. And so I put together a Storify, which is a tool for collecting tweets as well as other media, such as YouTube, etc. And it's a really nice way of curating all these tweets together, and it's just there. So if you go to my account on Storify, you'll be able to find it, all the links just there. And so now I'm all ready for my webinar in a couple of weeks' time. And again, this idea of crowdsourcing the MFL Twitterati is incredibly powerful to get some really good, up-to-date ideas on what you're interested in. Likewise, in relation to iPads, there are a few people in the UK who are blogging about their use of iPads. So we've got Amanda Salt, who I've mentioned already, who's here. She's got a really fantastic blog called Languages and Learning. We've then got Helena Butterfield, who writes under the pseudonym of Langwitch, which is a lovely pun, isn't it? So the Langwitch Chronicles. And then we've got Rachel Smith, who is from the Isle of Man, and she also has been blogging about her experience of using iPads in the classroom. And then if you're interested in finding out about language blogs, particularly from the UK, have a look at this website, which has been put together by Steve Smith, who's the former head of languages at Ripon Grammar School up in Yorkshire. Does anyone know him?
Oh, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay. I've never met him face to face. He's about the only language teacher now who's in the Twitterati who I've not met face to face. So I would really like to meet him. He seems like a real character. Yeah. And he's done a list of blogs, which is the longest I'm aware of in the UK, as well as some other places around the country. So it's a really good list. If you're not sure, how to get into all of this, that's a good starting point. Okay. So that's the whole idea of reflecting through blogging. Now, QR codes. We were looking at QR codes earlier on in my BYOD session. QR codes, if you don't know, QR stands for quick response. And so the idea is, it's one obvious way of using them is it's a quick way of of transferring a web link from the teacher's device, such as an iPad, onto multiple devices all at the same time. So sharing a web link via a QR code. So you scan the QR code with a device, and that will then take you to a URL. Okay? Now, there are lots of ways you can use these in education, some of which I talk about here as part of this presentation for the Scottish Learning Festival in Glasgow in 2011. And I also, if you do a search for exploring the educational potential of QR codes, you'll find an article which I wrote for connectlearningtoday.com, which is a website organised by Promethean in the US, and that has lots of other ideas on the use of QR codes. And this example here, this is a picture of an exercise book from a former student of David Mitchell, he used to be an assistant head teacher in a school in Bolton, and he's now become a freelance consultant going around the country talking about blogging in particular. And what he did here was he asked his students to write a piece of work. He then marked it for them, as you can see, and then he got them to write up the best version as a blog post. And then he created a QR code linking the blog post to the exercise book. And he talks about this idea of making your exercise books 4D. So the fourth dimension is the link between the physical, the paper version, and the virtual, the online version. So if you want to make your exercise books 4D, why not put QR codes linking to other resources such as blog posts, video content that your children have done, audio recordings, whatever you want to do. So that's the idea of making your exercise books 4D. Now here, this is a video I'm going to show you in a moment, talking about the mur parlant, or the talking wall, how to make your walls talk. So here, this is from the work of Kelda Richards, who's the head of languages at Isker College near Exeter. And she came up with this idea of using an app called Aurasma, which allows you to create what's called augmented reality. So what she did was she created some videos which she could then access via scanning this QR code here and then pointing the device at the word art, football, or whatever it might be. So in other words, you can launch these videos using the app called Aurasma simply by pointing the device at the QR code and then pointing at an image, and it will then play a video. So what I'm going to do now is show you an example of exactly that to hopefully inspire you on how you can do this in your own context. Here we go. So this is making your walls talk.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can make my wall talk. The first thing we're going to do is use a QR reader, which is going to use the quick response to open up the shared web link to Aurasma. Once Aurasma is loaded, it takes a few minutes, hopefully not a few minutes, for your order to be shared, and then it will open up your link video. So that's one I made at home to show my pupils how to do it, and then here are some that we did in class, which I've already shared to my iPod. And we have a survey that we did, so that you have the survey over the results on a graph. And there we go, pupils speaking French on display in the classroom.
So it's very Harry Potter-esque, but why not? You know, you can use that in lots and lots of different contexts, not just in languages, but you can use that to make your wall displays talk. So when Ofsted come around and they want to see evidence of your speaking work, then you can do that. You can have